Arsenal finally won the Premier League, but instead of protecting the squad that won it, they're trying to raise the ceiling once again. Arsenal entered 26-27 as defending Premier League champions and Champions League runner ups, but their underlying weaknesses still remain. They can dominate possession, they defend perfectly, and win through set pieces, yet their attack is still missing that X factor. Arsenal had a historically strong defensive team last year. They built their title on 26 goals conceded, 27.32 XG against, 87 shots faced, 19 Premier League clean sheets, and 32 clean sheets in all competitions. They won possession in the attacking third 177 times, second to Brighton, and they outran their opponents 35 out of the 38 league games. It tells you exactly what you need to know about Arteta and his values: squeezing the pitch, keeping the opposition trapped, preventing counters, and turning matches into controlled territorial battles. Terrorismo ball is what we call it. Their shape normally moved between 4-3-3 and 4-2-3-1, Zubamendi acting as that deep controller. Rice was allowed to then make more aggressive runs, which allowed a lot of room for Eze, Odegaard, Saka, and the fullbacks to rotate amongst them, which ultimately led to Arsenal success. And most of these came when Arsenal were 1-0 ahead. They averaged a league high of 2.73 points per match, and they recorded 8 separate 1-0 victories, showing that, yes, it is not the most beautiful football, but championship football. You win at all costs, and that's what Arsenal did, and that's why they are the current Premier League champions. As great as they were, they still have their limitations. Open play attack has definitely hindered Arsenal's potential to be an elite team. They scored a record 19 goals from corners, literally 35% of their goals. And it shows that, yes, as dangerous as they are from corners and set pieces, it also highlights how frequently they need these dead ball situations to break open these games. In the last final six stretched games of the season, Arsenal averaged 0.75 XG, a downfall from their 1.27 prior to that. The problem was not progressing the ball. Arsenal were actually excellent at reaching the final third. The issue was what happened after. Opponents were then defend with five or six players across the box, allow Arsenal to circulate possession outside of the box and never really get into the penalty area. They doubled up on Saka, forced Arsenal to run towards the wide overloaded sides, and basically denied Rice and Odegaard from being able to create space. This often committed several players to one wing, creating overload and basically two less attacking players on one side. Their structure protected them from counterattacks, but it also made them too cautious around the goal. That's the gap in this transfer window that Arsenal need to fix. Arsenal need more players who can destroy a defensive structure and not just operate outside one or try to find space inside one. So Arsenal went out and they signed a bunch of players. They signed Solis from Club Brugge for 34 million euros. He basically is the Trossard replacement, and he was impeccable in the Belgian league last year. 17 goals, 23 assists, 359 progressive carries. He led the Belgian league for the most chances created and operated both as a left winger and a number 10. Gives Arsenal another creator who can begin wide and move inside. He's not like the traditional touchline winger. He can link up well with Rice and Calafiori and cross early or attack in the box himself. He would also reduce the creative burden on Saka. Last season, opposing teams could aggressively overload Arsenal's right hand side because the left was not always equally threatening. Ultimately, there still is a risk. He came in from Belgium, and the Prem is on a different level. It's a lot more physically demanding. Arsenal have brought in a great replacement for Trossard, but I don't believe he is the X factor that you need. He's great off the bench and will be great for rotation, but there's still a signing that they need to make in order to reach a different level. This one a lot of people already know about, but I'm going to quickly speak on it. Hincapié from Bayer Leverkusen, that's been made permanent. He can play left sided center back, conventional left back, or even a defensive member of the back three. He's ultimately exactly what Arteta needs in that back lineup, just someone who can do multiple things, and I think this is a fantastic signing. We saw how good he was. He made 39 appearances for Arsenal last season. I think this is a fantastic signing. On to one of the bigger signings, and honestly, one of the two crucial signings that Arsenal needs to make this season, and that is Bruno Guimaraes. Reports indicate that Arsenal are really close to a deal worth 75 to 80 million euros, with some sources reporting a potential medical pending. These still remain in the books of Newcastle because there is no official transfer announced. I know that personal terms have been agreed upon with Arsenal, but how far does that take the rest of this deal? Bruno Guimaraes basically comes in to help out Zubamendi. Zubamendi started the season incredible, but we saw that kind of wane off towards the end of the season where some of the performances became kind of terrible. Bruno is a lot more naturally confrontational. He receives balls under pressure, turns away from opponents, carries through the midfield, and plays vertical passes before defensive blocks are even established. That could really help Arsenal pivot from defense to attack and allow their counter-attacking to go much smoother. Last season, Arsenal's attack declined when important players like Saka and Timber were unavailable. Bruno would allow Arteta to come up with so many different midfield combinations. Zubamendi Rice for maximum control, Rice Bruno for physical and vertical matches, Zubamendi and Bruno when Rice requires some rest. Bruno is an aggressive right sided player, so he can help out Saka. There's limitless potentials that Arteta can work with alongside Bruno to get the best for Arsenal in that midfield. For me, this is a 10 out of 10. You need to sign Bruno. This leads me to one of the other most important signings, and in my opinion, as a Real Madrid fan, I do kind of want to see this for Vinny, but I don't want to see this for obviously Madrid. But it is Vinicius Jr. to Arsenal. I'll talk about the pros and cons. So the pros: Vinicius against the low block, oh my god. He would force defenders to protect the left side, allow room for Rice and Odegaard to open up, prevent them from exclusively overloading on Saka, and gives Arsenal a different type of transition. Allows them to quickly pick up the ball and attack and do counter-attacking football like they have not last season. Before it felt very one-dimensional, go to the right. If it didn't work, go to the left. But with Vini, you could literally go from we're defending a corner to we just scored a goal because he can do that. Now, the cons to this deal have nothing to do with Vinicius as a player. If anything, it comes to the back end things, which is the fee. This could be a record transfer, and the wages could disrupt the whole hierarchy of their salary. I wouldn't be surprised if a big wage was given to Vinny and that caused some disruption in the locker room where other, you know, Arsenal stars would be like, I deserve to be paid more. I can think of Declan Rice, Saka, but stopping them from being paid the same amount as Vinny. There's also the question of tactical defensive responsibilities and whether Arteta would let him stay up and not press, or would Vinny adhere to Arteta and change the way he's been playing and become a defensively more aware player? Is that something that Arteta will be able to unlock from Vinny? Personally, I've seen him with Carlo, with Zidane, with Xabi Alonso, and especially Xabi Alonso. I don't see him doing those defensive tactics. So will Arteta be able to do something that Xabi wasn't able to do? There's one more player that I think would make Arsenal into a team that no one will be able to stop, and that is Julian Alvarez. We know that Barcelona, Real Madrid are still involved and have made things a lot more difficult for them. But the difference is Alvarez is not a Vinny style type of touchline dribbler. His value comes from his movement and his versatility. As a main striker, and even behind Gyökeres as a false nine, from left to moving into central areas, and as a strong pressing forward alongside another attacker, Alvarez would give Arsenal another player constantly attacking, and honestly, I could see him being the replacement for Gyökeres when Gyökeres is struggling. He also presses with the intensity that Arteta demands, which would be a great fit. The only issue with this signing is that they have Gyökeres and Havertz, spending over 100 million euros on both of them, and now spending another 100 million on Alvarez doesn't make sense if both of those strikers are already there. So, if Vinny comes in, you need to also think about getting rid of Gyökeres or Havertz. But I don't know if Arteta is going to be doing that. However, a player like Julian Alvarez takes you to a different level. Vinicius fills in a clear positional hole. Alvarez creates an incredibly strong collection of attackers, but Arsenal would need to redefine everyone's role. Arsenal already have the defensive organization, physicality, squad discipline required to defend their Prem title. They've already won it. Solis replaces Trossard with a younger, more creative profile. Hincapié protects the squad's depth. Bruno Guimaraes would make their midfield even stronger and the deepest and most flexible in Europe potentially. But Vinicius or another attacker of that profile is the move that would address their biggest weakness. Without a player like that, Arsenal would never be considered a elite team. This is a team that can win trophies, but they're missing that X factor. Vinny could be that X factor. Julian Alvarez could be that X factor, but they need to make room for him. Arsenal don't need another rebuild. They've already built a championship team. What they need now is one or two players that can break the script. Because their biggest enemy this season won't be a Man City, won't be a Chelsea. It'll be a low block. And when teams figure that out, can Arsenal adapt and do something, or will they let everyone walk all over them? Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there's another team you'd like me to tactically break down and see how their signings and exits will impact their 2026-27 season. Let me know what else you guys like to see. Like and subscribe. See you next time.